Hello, welcome to the Student Learning Objectives, or SLO, Overview for School Leaders. My name is Courtney Mills, and I'm the Director of Accountability for the South Carolina Public Charter School District. Myself, along with Becky Davis, the district's Director of Special Education, will be your contacts for the SLO process this year. If you are already familiar with the ADEPT performance standards, then you will recognize the 10 APSs listed here as the measures we have previously used to evaluate teachers' professional practice. These 10 standards are not changing. If you are not familiar with these, then don't worry. We will hold more in-depth training later this summer. What you need to know now is that for 2015-16, we will be using the expanded ADEPT system, which adds essentially an 11th standard, and that is student growth. This is being done to comply with the requirements of our state's ESA waiver. This presentation will give you an overview of how we will measure student growth in the coming school year. Student growth will be measured using one or both of the following measures. ESEA requires states to use value-add measures for teacher evaluation in at least ELA and math in grades 4 through 8. Our state has contracted with a company called SAS to produce these calculations for us through a program called the Educator Value Added Assessment System, or EVAS. For grades and subjects where there is not a state assessment, teachers will need to write Student Learning Objectives, or SLOs. In summary, ELA and math teachers in grades 4 through 8 must use EVAS measures in their student growth component, either alone or, as the district recommends, in combination with SLOs. All other teachers will be required to use SLOs. Here you can see the implementation plan for the coming school year. In July, school leaders should watch this presentation to gain an understanding of the SLO process in general and complete an assessment inventory, which will be discussed later. In August and September, the district will provide more in-depth training for all evaluators and mentors. All classroom teachers will complete their training online using modules developed by the SCDE. As soon as school starts, students will take pre-assessments, and teachers will use that data to write SLOs. Evaluators will hold a preliminary conference with each teacher and approve his or her SLOs. Throughout the school year, teachers should use a variety of formative assessments to monitor their students' progress and to adjust their instruction based on the students' needs. The goal is to ensure that every student is progressing toward their own individual objectives and to intervene when a student is not on track. Evaluators will hold a mid-year conference with every teacher to evaluate this progress. At the end of the year, students will take their post-assessments, a final conference will be held with each teacher, and ratings will be assigned based on SLO performance. Because state-level assessment data is generally not available until the summer, the district recommends that every teacher, including those in tested grades and subjects, participate in the SLO process. That way, every teacher will have evaluation results before the end of the school year. When EVAS data becomes available over the summer, teachers' ratings may be increased or decreased based on those results. Now let's take a slightly deeper look at the SLO process. Again, this is still just an overview, and more details will be provided later in the summer. The purpose of writing SLOs is to engage teachers in a deep analysis of their own student data and identify specific student needs. Teachers will use baseline data to set individual growth targets for every student, and scoring of the SLO will be based on the percentage of students who meet those targets. It is important to note that the targets must be based on growth, not on proficiency. This process does focus on student growth, but it also impacts teacher growth, and this should be seen as an opportunity to help develop teachers' professional practice in order to achieve better student outcomes. To write an SLO, every teacher will need to give a pre-test and a post-test in order to set targets and measure each student's growth during the school year. Ideally, these are the same assessment, though there must at least be an alignment between the two. Teachers will also need access to formative assessments that can be given throughout the school year to monitor students' progress and adjust instruction. Remember that SLOs will be written by every classroom teacher, including the core subjects and electives. We recognize that your school is probably not already using this many different assessments. You may be able to continue using the ones you have, you may need to purchase or obtain some others, and some will need to be developed by individual teachers or teams of teachers. Your next step will be to identify what assessments you plan to use. This must be done before school starts so that you are prepared to give pre-tests as soon as students return. An assessment inventory has been posted to the bookshelf and should be completed and returned to the district by July 31st. Your student growth measures, which will include the SLO ratings, combined with EVAS data when required, will count 20% of each teacher's overall rating. Their professional practice, based on the other 10 ADEPT performance standards, will count the other 80%. After all of this information is combined, only an overall rating of met or not met will be reported to the state. The SEDE has clearly established some realistic expectations for the coming school year. It is anticipated that this process will not be perfectly smooth, so please realize that you should not panic about SLOs. You should focus this year on finding or developing high-quality assessments and ensuring that teachers are using that data to guide their instruction. You should also focus on measuring individual student growth, not just looking at overall proficiency rates. For this school year, the SEDE has told us to presume that all teachers are proficient, unless the data gathered in this process strongly indicates otherwise. A quick note about your employees who are not classroom teachers. School counselors, speech and language therapists, and library and media specialists will continue to use the existing ADEPT guidelines for the coming school year and are not required to write SLOs. If your school uses the PADEP model to evaluate your principal, that process already contains a student growth component, and the guidelines were recently revised to reflect the ESA waiver requirements. Principals are not required to write SLOs. Here you can see your next steps as the school leader. You should complete and return the assessment inventory to the district no later than July 31st. You also need to identify which administrators and lead teachers will serve as SLO evaluators. These individuals will receive district training later this summer. Plan to have all classroom teachers complete the online SLO training as soon as they return from summer break, and be prepared to administer pre-assessments to your students as early as possible in the school year. If you would like more information before the next training, these links will be posted to the bookshelf, or you may also find them on the SEDE website under Educator Evaluation. Finally, if you have any questions, please contact either myself or Becky Davis, and we will be glad to assist you.